right, so we're back in open session. At this time, are there any public comments? Seeing there are no public comments, are there any requested changes to the agenda from the board? No requested changes, so we now will move into the public hearing. So at this point, is there a motion to enter into a public hearing to discuss the transfer of funds from the Transportation Fund to the Education Fund in the amount of $1.5 million?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Margie, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Mangia?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Are there any comments from the public about the transfer of money from these funds? Seeing that there is no comment from the public, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. We next move to the superintendent's report.
Even though it's not actually on there, we have to introduce the hostess with the mostess here. Kim Hefner will do a little Hollywood hello, and then we'll move on to the advanced program, the Quest program audit.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming to Hollywood. I'm really excited that you're visiting, you're going on tour throughout District 96 to visit the schools. You get to see what we do. It's a little unusual to be here in the middle of the summer. I wish I had more pizzazz to show you. But I do want to take the opportunity to share a little bit about some of the things that are special to Hollywood. One of the things that's very special about Hollywood, as you know, there's been quite a bit of talk about the playground, is the early childhood program. And in my experience, the early childhood program, because it doesn't show up on assessment scores, it's not part of PARC and things like that, it's not often completely understood. It's a large expense to districts. The state requires that children who are identified with a disability at the age of 3 are serviced in a school district. So every school district finds a way to service those children. We've opened up our program to create a blended program, which is phenomenal because then you pull in students who are theoretically typically developing.
I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but I know for the camera it might be better if you speak in the microphone. I don't know, is that better? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Loretta.
You thought your voice carried. It was the middle school teacher coming on.
We're having.
Smarter than microphone.
There you go. That's
Okay, so we've taken an extra step and we've opened our early childhood program up to children who are considered to be typically developing. They're not identified with a disability. And the benefit of that is that those children, although they're not identified at this point yet, they may be identified. Not always are parents aware of how their child is developing. And it's very possible that they haven't been identified. Maybe they have a speech disability or some sort of movement. We look at children in terms of 6 areas of development. Social, emotional. There aren't Illinois learning standards for, we have them throughout the whole spectrum of development, but at the early learners, it's huge, the social emotional piece. Because many of our children, many of them are raised in a 2-parent home and they get a lot of attention from their mom, but if they haven't had experiences with other children outside the home, they don't necessarily learn to share or to take turns or to play games, things like that we may take for granted, and things that they need to understand when they get to school. They don't always learn how to manage their feelings. So social emotional is one, physical is one. Language development is absolutely huge because that is what builds the vocabulary in their mind for when they begin to sound out words, because learning to read is really a matching game. Okay, so a child may see the letters D-O-G and they could say dog, dog. But if they've never heard the word dog before, they're going to say dog, dog. So learning to read is really a matching game, and they're matching the sounds that they hear into the word bank, whatever they're pulling out of their brain. And you might have heard of the million-word gap. There are children who haven't been talked to, sung to, or read to regularly, that if we can catch them in early childhood, we can make up that deficit. And so we've got social emotional development, physical development, which is gross motor, running, throwing, and fine motor skills, being able to write, print. Social emotional physical, language, math, and then literacy. And they're starting to identify those letters. Math, they have number sense. That is huge. As we move, we've just adopted a new math curriculum that is all about number sense. It's not just the mechanics of mathematics, just 3 plus 4, but it's understanding that when you add 3 and 4, you're going to get a number that's greater than both of those. 7 is greater than both of those. And those things can start really early in development also. You can start as early as a child is right after they're born. You start by counting to them, but that doesn't give them the real understanding. If a child can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they don't have an understanding that 6 is bigger than 1. But if you say to a child, how many crackers do you want? Do you want a snack? How many goldfish do you want? Almost every time they say 2. So you give them 2 goldfish or 2 Cheerios, right? And they look at you like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And you ask them again. So how many Cheerios do you want? And they give you 2 again. And you give them 2. And they're like, whoa, this is a conspiracy. They may not think that word, but that's the sense they've got. And then you ask them again, and they'll say, wait a minute, I'm starting to get this. 3. Give me 3. And then 10. Number sense. They've got it. There are children who aren't exposed to these things. There are children in our community who aren't talked to, who aren't asked, how many do you want? Okay? But it goes way beyond that. It's easy to see how those math and language things impact their learning later on. But there are many people who will say that it's the social emotional even greater. So I'd like to share with you, because I really do believe the early childhood program isn't always completely understood, a document that we use to determine how children are developing. Okay, it's in the 6 areas of development, and then there are different components within that.
Thanks, Kim.
So if you take a look, it begins with social emotional development, and the very first thing there is manages feelings. Now, how well does a child manage their feelings? You know, when a baby is newborn, they cry for everything, because that's their means of communicating. But we hope that as language develops, they can communicate their feelings differently. Not all children develop that way. Okay? If we identify that one of our children, whether they're identified with a disability or not, you know, we have a social worker here who can help the child begin to develop those skills. If we notice a child is not being able to move regularly, they can't get from one place to another, maybe on a scooter, maybe they can't balance like they should, we have a physical therapist here to help them. And James Heckman from the University of Chicago has stated that for every $1 that's put into early childhood education, it benefits society tenfold. $10 later on, whether it's in less people being incarcerated, Because we know that when someone's in first grade and they struggle with reading, if they begin school behind, they get a defeatist mentality. They have a fixed mindset. They begin to believe oftentimes that they're not as smart, and it becomes more difficult to make up that deficit. It could be save society in incarceration rates. It could save society in dropouts, save society in special education, teenage pregnancy. All of these things can be impacted when a child enters an early childhood program already at a deficit, especially. A child who hasn't been exposed to language, number sense. We can make up that deficit. That's one of the beautiful things that separates Hollywood, makes Hollywood kind of a special, unique community. We're making up deficits for the whole of Riverside, all of us. And it's going to save us later on. Another thing that I'd like to highlight is that I think Meryl Brownlow shared with you the MAP scores, and our reading scores here really shone. It was the growth that we experienced was beautiful. I can't specifically attribute that to one thing, but one thing that I believe really contributed to that is that our staff chose, in the contract, there's 20 minutes of team planning time twice a week. And our staff chose to take one lunch plan period, so about 45 minutes every week, to work in professional learning communities. In those professional learning communities, they chose the topics. I asked them at the beginning of the year, if you could learn about anything that's going to contribute to your profession, what would you want it to be? And there was a group of them who wanted to learn about, they felt like they had been exposed to the Common Core, but there are special teaching strategies that go along with the Common Core. There's Common Core teaching strategies that they hadn't received professional development in. So they said, we want to learn about that. And one group said, we want to learn about that in reading. Another group said, we want to learn about that in writing. Another group said, we want to learn about that in math. And then our early childhood folks, they adopted a new curriculum, the creative curriculum. They said, we want to dig deeper into our curriculum so that we can implement that with fidelity. And so every Thursday, these groups got together, they made agendas, they took notes. I went and visited them to help facilitate them and get them the resources they need, and they created toolkits for the rest of the staff. The reading group focused on vocabulary. I can't help but think that what those teachers learned about vocabulary is going to enhance their instruction and therefore their children's learning. And vocabulary is one thing, when you look at the MAP assessment, there's informational text, there's literature, and there's vocabulary. If the kids increase in vocabulary, the other two areas are going to increase as well. Writing, we know that writing and reading go hand in hand. And then the math group was a very small group. There were 2 teachers in the math group who created a resource for the rest of the staff around the new Math in Focus curriculum and Common Core conceptual strategies rather than procedural. And then the early childhood folks worked with their new curriculum. So those are some things I'm really proud of that I'd like to highlight and share with you about Hollywood Elementary School. Do you have any questions?
I'm just glad that we stole you from Carroll Stream. Kim, if you don't remember the background, opened up an early childhood center in District 93 in Carroll Stream. And yeah, she used to teach at some place called Hauser, I think, before that, a long time ago.
Well, none of this would happen without your support and your understanding. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Kazmira, you're up next. Go for it. She's Meryl's substitute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm actually taller than someone.
It's the heels.
I'm here this evening just to address the memo in your board packet that references our renewal and audit of our gifted and advanced learning program. We're in the beginning stages of this audit. We have formed a smaller in-house committee right now, and it's composed of elementary and middle school teachers and administrators, and it's led by Meryl Brownlow and myself. We have also enlisted the help of Laura Belchenko. I don't know if has Meryl spoken to you about Laura before? So Laura is our literacy and gifted consultant. She had worked as the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction in Wakanda for several years. She is a network presenter and director for the Association for Gifted Children, and she is also a presenter for the Illinois Reading Council and the National Association for Reading.
She also was a former board member in Libertyville.
She's
for a
served many
long
years
time.
in Bournemouth, so
Yeah.
she also sees things from your side of the coin as well.
Yeah.
So we're just very fortunate. She works with a lot of surrounding districts in the areas of literacy and Common Core implementation, and of course, gifted and advanced learning program implementation. So we're just really blessed to have her over the next several months to help guide us through this process. In the fall, we're going to expand our committee, and we're going to include parent representation. Sherry Kleiber is also going to join us as a board member, but as a parent as well. And so we feel really good about the stakeholders that we're involving. We have a really good, energetic team who's very passionate about this topic in this area, and so we're pretty excited about that. Our hope is to present proposals and any changes to the gifted programming in February of 2017.
It's in the board packet.
That said, I'm going to hop over here for a second. We did make some changes for the 2016 and 17 year with regard to our placement process. And normally you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't change anything about how to place or qualify students before you determine what the programming is. But in an effort to be more consistent across all 5 schools and to promote a more inclusive type of setting, and also to take into consideration the adoption of the Carnegie Math, we did do some changes. So I'm just going to guide you through. We want to also our importance of always being transparent. And so if you go to our district website and you go into curriculum and instruction, if you just scroll down, it's right here under advanced program information. So it's really easy to find and to navigate. So on the top is our advanced learning placement process. So this letter will go out to all families after today, and it will inform families about how students are qualified for Quest programming, which is the program at the elementary level, or for advanced learning at Hauser. It will also direct you in the website to the matrices, and I will walk you through some of those in a couple minutes. And then at the bottom of the letter, it will explain the appeal process. So by law, all schools and all districts have to have an appeal process for parents questioning the placement of a child. And so this is a very clear and transparent way to communicate to our communities about when you do question or you do have a concern about how your child's been placed, how do you go about approaching the school and the administration and the teachers to see about having a conversation or a dialogue about that. Okay. Our ELA, our English Language Arts matrices have relatively stayed the same. I'm going to walk you through the math matrices because I can speak to a lot of the changes that we made through these. Okay. So when we qualify students, we take into account 2 types of assessments, or we look at 2 profiles. We look at their measures of academic progress, which is their achievement test. It's what they have mastered or secured in terms of content and concepts. And then we also look at their COGAT scores. And their COGAT is a cognitive abilities test, and that is a test of aptitude. So that's their thinking and their reasoning. In addition, in the ELA, or the English Language Arts, we look at a balance between those 2, and we qualify based on that. In the math, we look at 2 subtests of the COGAT. Before, we just looked at 1. We just looked at the quantitative. But it's appropriate when you're looking at children and qualifying them for either gifted or advanced programming to also look at the nonverbal. The nonverbal is how students process information, how they utilize logic, their spatial reasoning and understanding. Like they'll have pictures of a piece of paper that are folded into 4 parts, and they'll punch a hole in one corner. And they'll ask the child, if you opened up the paper, where would all the holes be on the paper? So it has them, you can see how some of that would lean towards recognizing or identifying a student that might have mathematical aptitude. Okay. So this is for Quest Math. This is grades 3, 4, and 5. Grades 3 and 4 have pull out a couple times a week. At grade 5 starts our accelerated program, which means it meets every day, and it's a year advanced. So students that enter into Quest Math at 5th grade would actually be receiving 6th grade math curriculum. Okay. In grade 6, once again, we use the quantitative and the nonverbal scores and the math map spring score, but we also implemented this year a 6th grade curriculum placement test, and that is the 6th grade curriculum based on Carnegie. So it gave us a clear picture of how all of our 5th graders, because all of our 5th graders across the district took it, and so it lets us know how the students that were in the Quest programming, how they responded to that to the Carnegie and what concepts and content they have secured. But it also gave us another, I guess, positive result is that we can look across the district and see where are holes and our gaps as we transition to a new curriculum, and what scaffolds and supports do we need to put in place for all of our students as they go from 5th grade into 6th grade and they transition into that curriculum. And then finally, the 7th and 8th grade. It's the same thing. The only difference here, there is the 7th and 8th grade based placement test, also based on Carnegie. But then down here is the classroom assessment and their average achievement scores. So once students enter Hauser, how they test and how they perform in their daily instruction of that math class also will contribute to their future programming as they go into 7th and 8th grade. And so those are all the changes that we have done for this year. Like I said, they're very minor until we decide what our new programming will be. But we just wanted to make sure that we communicated that with you and also conveyed how sincerely excited we are about delving into this area of our curriculum.
So the bottom line, Casimir, is you tweaked it a little bit. It's a work in progress, but this is really making it much more transparent for the community.
Yeah, the transparency and the consistency across all 5 buildings were our major concerns. And I was the one kind of like holding back. I was like, we really don't want to change too much before we make programming decisions. It's kind of like packing for a trip before you're deciding where you want to go. You know. So, do you have any other questions?
To begin the audit, was there some feedback that we received from parents or community members about deficiencies or?
I don't think anything out of the ordinary. There's always going to be questions with regard to curriculum and especially with the placement. I don't think it was always very clear as to how children qualified for Quest programming for advanced learning, so that would be a concern that may have come up. It hasn't been renewed in a long time, and I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. So anywhere between 5 or 7 years, anything will naturally go through a curricular renewal, and we would relook at some things.
Casimira, what sparked the reason to do the audit? Have they been done in the past?
And an audit is basically just a renewal. So it's the same thing as we would go through with our math curriculum or our literacy curriculum. When we look at it and see, are we current? Is it rigorous enough? Is it meeting the needs of our current population? I mean, right now we have a very healthy population of both gifted and high-achieving students within District 96.
Okay, is this on some sort of a rotation? Every 3 years you look at it?
All curriculum is on a rotation, and so
Mary Rose, typically, not unusual, a lot of districts will do a 5-year cycle because you have a number of subject areas to deal with. And at the elementary level, you couldn't burden the 1st or 2nd grade teachers with a reading and a math and a social studies at the same time. So typically, a 5-year cycle is not a bad one, to be able to make sure that you're updated and really using material that's, doing what you want it to do.
Okay.
we feel pretty good about it right now, especially with the adoption of both Carnegie and Math and Focus, and especially with we did amazing work with English Language Arts, also with Laura Belchenko, with our general education and core teachers last week. and just our core is becoming like stronger every day. And so I feel we're in a really good place to make some great decisions about what our advanced learning is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's hard to follow Kim and Kazmira's act, but consider these next three things in here, and there weren't any attachments to it. Consider it Griff and Pat's exit interview, maybe the annual report, the synopsis of what took place. And I was tempted to initially do A Tale of Two Cities, but I decided with Sliding Doors. It was a movie that very few people saw in 1998, starring Gwyneth Paltrow, where in one part of the movie she made the train and certain things happened. And they did a comparison, a kind of a parallel thing that she missed the train and other things happened. And what I wanted to do is just think back when the last board election took place. You guys all came together as a new board, and you probably made one of the best decisions that a board could make. And I would ask you to just reflect for a second, if in Sliding Doors you had chosen someone else to be your assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, would you have done a couple of things that are near and dear to Randy, doing a really good update on RTI and doing a very good job of putting that together? The whole K-8 math thing, would that have taken place this quickly in a year, in updating not just the K-5 but the middle school also? The professional development that Kim talked about, and the fact that it's ongoing throughout the district, and the institute days that the board put aside, for people to be able to update, their ability to do positive things for kids. Para, the whole teacher evaluation thing, we were kind of behind in that area, and because you chose a Merrill Brownlow, we pretty much caught up in that area too, and Kazmira was very involved in that part of it too, I think. And we had some grants that were not quite in compliance that Merrill has put together and really put us in a good position. So, Sliding Doors, if you didn't have the wherewithal to choose a Merrill Brownlow, would all these things have happened? I don't know. Then you made another really dumb decision. You hired these two old guys to kind of fill the void as interim superintendents. And, you need to know that superintendents, typically it's about a 230-day work year. And we're, by law, obligated to stay under the 100 mark. So, 230 days became a little less than 200. But in that time, before we were actually official, we went through a principal search. If you remember, you had two very quick resignations right after the board meeting in May. And we stole Kim Hefner from Carol Stream. And in the process of doing those principal searches, and we also hired April May as the Hauser principal, we included a lot of stakeholders in the process, which is a way of getting a lot of buy-in from faculty, from community. I mean, we set a committee that would interview these people. It was comprised of a lot of different segments, and it became a real positive situation. Now, that was before we were official. Now, since we've become official, I just had some different categories here. One I called outreach. We had the playground committee, which is still a work in progress, but there was a lot of interaction there with community members and getting some input, and Pam was very involved in that one, and going out with Kim and viewing some playgrounds and what would be good for early childhood and kids of even a higher age. We took a before and after school survey, which had been a little bit of a difficulty with the program previously, and again reached out to the community, got a pretty good return. I think our return was something, Margie, correct me if I'm wrong, we were close to 1/3 of the people that we sent it out to actually returned it, which is unusual. As I go through these things, Griff and I are not taking credit for this. I remember Randy at a board meeting, it was about 6 months ago, when Bob Petito was here and you complimented Don Tofano, Bob Petito about the website, and me, and I said, I take no credit for that. The credit I take for it is in getting the people in place and having them feel good about being supported and going off and doing what they need to do to make it happen. The annual report is another example. Martha kind of stole that one because, she's got a whole page to herself. The names Griff and Pat aren't even involved in that 6-pager, but it will be a wonderful outreach to the community. And I'm curious to see after that's mailed, and that's in the not too distant future, I think you're going to get some incredibly good feedback from the community that you've given them a very nice, thumbnail sketch of what's been happening in Riverside District 96 for a while. This one I'll tread on very lightly. I will call it PTA Balanced Influence. By and large, I think there were some situations that maybe made it difficult to totally function the way we needed to, and so there was an opportunity, to discuss some things with some PTA people to make sure that decision-making was really taken in the proper perspective. I have technology, Randy, again, I take no credit for any of this, except to encourage Don and Bob Petito, and we had, as part of the strategic plan, we talked about bullying, and almost immediately, I think that was even in September, wasn't it, Don? That ability to report any bullying incidents was up on the website. So that took place. A lot of these things happen reasonably quickly. I call it additional student positives. As much as, people were a little concerned about taking on the LADSI class, very honestly, that's going to be a very positive thing. As I told you, I think when we had the discussion, I literally was the CEDAW, which is the special ed district in Lake County. I was the home to that particular program for all of Lake County. I couldn't handle them now in that building because that particular identification of students has grown quite a bit. I think we had about 15 to 20 students that were in the building. I'm sure there are a lot more than that up in Lake County right now. But it will be a positive thing for kids to see other types of kids with other difficulties or problems and help them grow that way. The expansion of the early childhood program, Kim very eloquently talked about how that can have a real positive impact for the future and maybe, less of a need for special education in the future if you can catch them early. The state of Illinois has made that one of their cornerstones for a long time. Every governor has run on, I'm going to fund early childhood education more. Unfortunately, it never really happens. And the state of Illinois right now is not in very good shape. Another student positive to me was during the negotiations with Sherry and Rich, we also lengthened the Hauser school day, which I think is a positive one for kids and gives you some more opportunity to do some other things. Talk about community outreach. I don't know what the relationship was before with the village of Riverside, but we literally took a crossing guard thing that had been sitting there for a while and closed that one out. And so a very nice contact with not only the police chief, but also the village manager, Jessica Francis. And then Kim had a situation out here where we were worried about the street in front of Hollywood. And so I think Jeff even attended that one. And we went to a Brookfield Village Board meeting and got some more signage and some more look at, what would make this a safer situation for kids. Building projects, here's where there's no I in team. And I'm really referring to all these things as things that have happened, but we're driven by everybody. I mean, it's a group that has to make it happen. The board got a compliment for, supporting this. And literally everybody that's involved in each of these things, needs to have that feeling of support, and some really great things will happen. There's a savings that we just got after spending some time with the Preservation Committee and going back and forth on the cost of replacing the windows at Blythe Park. Phenomenal savings. And it was because people went back and forth, did some research. David did a great job at that. The board kind of said, could we look at some other alternatives? It was a real team initiative. And I'll never forget when David and I went up to the Blythe Park School to look at the thing they put in as an example. And we looked at it and went, okay, which windows did they do? And that's exactly what the Preservation Committee came back with. So a great savings. I have a word on here, property issues, and that'll be an ongoing thing that we'll be talking about. One of the potential problems for a school district is contract negotiations. And Rachel and Rich and Sherry sat in on that. And the nice thing for Martha is that this was the first year of a 3-year contract for teachers. So she has a little bit of breathing time before she has to go to the well on that one. And then the custodial contract, which was just settled, which gives her 4 years on that one. So, hey, Martha, just sit back and, sip lemonade. I'm sure there won't be anything else to do, for the next year or so. Legal fee savings. I think if you look at the cost of legal fees, there are always different things that come into play and different issues that create that to go up. But I think we did our best to try to cut as many corners as we can. The Brookfield safety resolution that you guys passed at a board meeting that we sent to the village of Brookfield was drafted by somebody who just put a bunch of whereases in to make it look official, rather than spending $500 to have an attorney do it. And then we come to the big projects. Strategic plan, again, only part of it. There's no I in team. There was a lot of involvement at the administrative level, at the faculty level, at the community level. We had some people that had been involved in the community previously, got some great input, developed a great working document. And now we're at a point where some of those things have already come to reality, and that'll be the focus for the future. And then the big one, and this might be the second best decision, and then we'll see, maybe it'll even be the first one in the long term. But somehow we went through this superintendent search and identified this lady in the front row. And the more I talked to her very honestly, the more I think this was the perfect fit for you. And I think really, given the right support and all the different people that are the adjuncts to all of this, I think this is going to be a wonderful experience. For those of you that weren't at the retirement dinner, I literally said, coming back and visiting in a couple years, if they let me in the door, this place is going to be a place that people will look at and say, wow, what a district, phenomenal. Now, that was sliding doors. The other two will be much shorter. Economics. There's macroeconomics and there's microeconomics. And I've worked with a lot of boards of education in my life, and what I would suggest to you is the only thing that can get in the way of the progress that I think will really be incredible in this school district is the board needs to be in the macro, the big picture. Look at the types of things that need to be looked at. Maybe can we look at the Quest program? The micro part is what you have people here for. Martha and Meryl and Kasmira and Kim and Pam and Don, and turn them loose. Griff and I have a very similar philosophy, even though he isn't quite as polished as I am. I'm just kidding. It's hire the right people, turn them loose, support them, give them what they need, and it's going to work. And literally, we've seen that grow by leaps and bounds this year, and I don't think there's any end to how positive this whole thing can turn out. And the final one, and I bet you've already guessed number 4, Aretha Franklin, and her famous song is R-E-S-P-E-C-T, respect. I'm a big baseball fan, and we've got a couple others at the table like that too. And I'm amazed at what the Cubs are doing this year, but I think it has a lot to do with the manager, with Joe Madden. And it's a very mutual trust, respect, and I tell you, an organizational theory, back when I was in school, which was a long time ago, you looked at a theory X, you looked at a theory Y, you looked at a theory Z, and I think the best organizations that I've seen in action have this very, very ingrained idea of mutual trust and respect. And when you have that, there really is no end to what this place can do. And I think you've got all the pieces in place. Martha's still a work in progress. Maybe in 6 months I'll take a little bit back, but I think you have the perfect person to lead you. I've been blown away by Meryl all year. We don't tell her to do anything. We just go, Meryl, what can we do to help you get to that point in time? And it happens, and Sherry can speak to that. I mean, Meryl is a walking curricular dictionary, whatever. And I think this place, there's no limit to how good this district can be. And so let's call this the exit interview, the synopsis of the year. And very honestly, I'm tired. I'm too old to do this kind of stuff. So I'll leave it at that, and we can move on to the next one.
All right, well, I would like to say, though, that I think the whole board feels this way, which is that we got lucky in another way as well back in April, which is when District 103 decided that you guys were...
Did we get bounced?
You got bounced, basically. You got fired.
Yeah.
So it was a
We've
little bit of
never
a-
been fired before, so we resigned before they bounced
Because
us.
you don't take credit for a lot of the stuff that happened, but in fact, you guys deserve a lot of the credit for that because, we were in a tough spot a year ago, and you look at what's happened in the last year and where we're at now, I think it's really night and day. So.
Well, you've got a wonderful group of people working here, and just, listen to what they're telling you and support them, and there's no limit to what you can do here.
So. All right. So the next item is the consent agenda. So if the board secretary could read the consent agenda, and then if anyone wants to pull anything off, we can do that.
Yep. All right, the consent agenda is as follows. Item 1, resolution, transfer of funds from transportation to education fund. Number 2, resolution, transfer of funds from operations maintenance fund to capital projects fund. No public hearing required. Item 3, summer 2016 equipment purchasing. Item 4, summer 2016 facilities improvements. Item 5, minutes of the previous meetings, including A, minutes of the regular business meeting from May 17th, 2016, B, minutes of the closed session, May 17th, 2016, and C, minutes of the special meeting, June 2nd, 2016. Item 6, the personnel report. Item 7, the payables pre-list as of May 31st, 2016. Item 8, the payables pre-list as of June 21st, 2016. Item 9, non-union salaries for 2016-2017. Item 10, residential student placement. Item 11, Board of Education meeting schedule through December 2017. Item 12, prevailing rate of wages effective June 1, 2016. And item 13, the Property Tax Appeals Board, PTAB, resolution for District 96.
Thanks, Linda. Are there any items that anyone would like to take off of the consent agenda for further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the personnel report.
Okay, so we'll take off personnel report number 6. Are there any other items that anyone would like to take off at this point? So if there are no other items, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item 6, personnel report?
So moved.
Second.
Margie, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Clyber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy? Aye. Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
So next we move to a separate discussion of the personnel report.
Yeah, I just have a question. First of all, Griff has a resignation letter in there. What agreement is he,
The consultant thing, starting July 1.
okay, that's all I wanted to know. I didn't
Yeah.
know whether he was leaving early from the interim.
Did he disappear again? He did this to me in Berwyn back in 2003, 2004. So, no, that would be the thing after July 1, Mary Rose.
Okay, it wasn't clear to me. And then the other question that I guess I have is, I was not able, I was on the road, so I was not able to access Board Book for a number of different reasons. And let me see here. What is in there for Jason? I just noticed it. Jay Smith?
That's in the closed session.
Yeah,
Right.
so we did get a
We
chance to
haven't talked
discuss
about
that in the earlier, so we'll have to go back into closed session to talk about the...
Right.
Okay, I have not been able to open it. All right, so we're approving the, I'm sorry, what is it?
So aside from Jason, which is, I think, a potential change in job, which would be, which we
Okay.
haven't discussed yet in closed session, I think everything else here are just resignations or family
hires.
leave act.
Right.
All right, well then, would it be appropriate to either...
Take that out, yeah, we'll take that out,
yeah.
yeah, and then talk about it and then come back into open session.
All right, so how do we do this? Can we...
So we can approve the personnel report as presented with the exception of the Jason Smith contract.
Okay,
Sound okay?
okay.
So is there a motion to approve the personnel report as presented with the exception of the Jason Smith contract?
So moved.
Second.
Margie, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Clyber? Aye. Ms. Murphy? Aye. Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, so then the next item is the Riverside Educational Council. I see there's no comments from the Riverside Educational Council. We next come to board member comments. Do any board members have any comments they'd like to share?
I have a comment. Specific to the personnel report, there's a resignation by Aaron McCarthy. I'd like to say that in my experience, Aaron was really just a fantastic teacher and really, the model for what we want our teachers to be. She was just professional in every way, and I'm disappointed to see her. At the same time, I'm thankful and glad for her that she's moving on because this is how she wants her career to progress.
I absolutely concur with that. I feel grateful that my family got to know her, and it's extremely organized and just infectious with how she's inspiring students to read and their love of reading. And so we'll miss her very greatly, but I'm so excited for her and her endeavors. So.
Yeah, I echo those comments as well. Totally agree with you guys.
Absolutely.
Are there any other board member comments at this point?
I wanted to make one comment in relation to what Mrs. Hefner was talking about earlier. This summer so far, I've heard nothing but wonderful things about the the Early Childhood Program from everybody that I've seen. So what you guys are doing is really making a difference, and like it was a big topic at the pool one day. Everybody's talking about it. So I just wanted to mention that. It is. Thank you.
Well, you've got a nice combo there between Pam's leadership and Kim's background in this area. It's a great combo.
Are there any other comments then from the board? Next we come to committee reports. So Rich, do you have any comments for the Finance Committee?
I do. We've got a good deal of work that we just approved the final budget for, essentially, in the consent agenda, including paving at Hauser, the elevator project, Blythe Windows. Specific to the elevator project, I don't know if anybody caught in the news that we've got, or in board information, that we exposed some asbestos in the demolition that's being addressed right now. It's going to delay the project up to 5 days, but we're following all the protocols that we need to in this circumstance, and we're keeping an eye on it, and we'll report any schedule delays, but hoping that we can catch up on that project.
Thank you.
As well.
Lynn, do you have any comments from the Policy Committee?
I have no comments from the Policy Committee. We haven't had a meeting in a bit. And just a reminder, if any board member has any policy they want to talk about at the next Committee of the Whole meeting, please let me know.
Linda, do you go through any of these policies and identify any on your own in terms of, is that part of what you're doing? Or?
Yeah, I've been going through, the IASB has a recommendation of like every month what section you should be reading and looking through, and I have been doing that. For me right now, identifying anything, I feel like we're in a situation of change and a lot of other things going on, so I've been kind of holding off until we have...
Until Martha comes in, so don't be planning on too much
But it is the board's policy
lemonade.
manual, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you. Linda, Sherry, do you have any comments on the Education Committee?
We didn't have a committee meeting per se, but Ms. Brownlow gave us an update on summer school, course descriptions, enrollment. At that time, I'm sure it's changed because it's ongoing, and projections for future planning, and things will be changing. So that sounds like, I'm sure Kim would know in more detail how it's going, but.
Do you want me to share?
One quick, yeah.
We have 211 students enrolled.
Great.
There are over 266 registrations. We only needed to cancel 3 classes.
Good.
It's amazing.
So great.
Numbers are way up.
Good.
I don't have the comparison, but I will prepare that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. We then next come to new business. The first and only item on new business is staff attendance. This was an issue that Dr. Paul has raised, that there might be concern about
And
some
he's
staff.
not here.
He's not here, so I guess
Yeah,
we'll...
and so he's not in
Yeah.
attendance. I think as we looked at this, and probably for the future, what you might want to do is focus in on, numbers and people that maybe routinely are using a lot more days than others. Martha, basically has some input on this, and Donna went to an HR meeting of all the surrounding districts, and I think you have the memo in your packet, which basically says it's kind of something that everybody is experiencing right now. And I go back to the graduate classes I taught after my third retirement. I'm forgetting exactly the sequence. But literally, I would talk to these young teachers, and we would discuss sick leave. And they would look at you like, well, it's my right. I get 10 days, and so I'm going to be sick 10 days. And so I think that might be part of the culture. I don't know. I don't know if there are other super germs out there that are causing this. But I think the main focus for this board going down the road in the future would be to ask Donna to identify, maybe perennial problems in this area. I think overall a lot of people are very good about attendance. But Griff and I are the old school where you come unless you're dying kind of thing. And I don't believe that exists to a great degree anymore. Martha, why don't you, if you want to jump in with, looking down the road. You were going to try to get some comparisons with District 90, but you weren't able to, right?
Right. I think it comes down to also like what we value. I know it was in the notes from Donna, haven't really addressed staff attendance as just an item in their evaluation.
Right.
It's good, it's great, and when it's a problem, it can be addressed, and what's something in between is probably understood.
Okay.
One of the things that I see here, it says reward staff who don't use sick days by giving them an incentive. Isn't the incentive the fact that they get to accumulate them as retirement credit?
Yeah, but some places unfortunately got to a point where they would give people that didn't use their full allotment of sick days in a year bonuses. And see, to me, that you're giving them money for doing what they should be doing anyway. And I think that's part of the incentive thing that some people were talking about, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's the incentive. But I tell you, when you're 25 years old, you're not looking at accumulating all those sick days for when you retire. That's the unfortunate part of it.
Well, you've got a long time to accumulate the
before you get to it.
365,
Yeah.
I guess.
So you can sit there and go, well, maybe next year I'll start my accumulation, but this year I'm not feeling too well. I'm going to take an extra day or two off. So.
Well, I think some of it could also be that, at least for my generation, and I rarely missed ever, but we have both parents working, and is their child who's sick?
Yes.
And so it's not always them, but.
Actually, it's frequently not the individual, not the teacher.
Right, I'm saying.
It's a sick child at home, and again, that's an allowable sick leave kind of thing. I think this is one that you can take a look at during the next year, and I think what Martha said is a very appropriate thing, that needs to be snuck into the overall evaluation of teachers too. And I believe that's even is that part of the fourth domain? You guys are better at this than I am. The attendance aspect? Yeah.
It's part of the what?
Well, the Danielson
Start with
model that's being used now is, and they're working their way into all these different domains, and I think that attendance is part of that last aspect that's being factored in.
I have one suggestion. We do have the substitute report, and which is a macro level. It would be helpful, I think, if maybe quarterly or if we could get like a blurb from the superintendent or somebody just saying what the trend is. I mean, I don't want a monthly trend, but is this more or less than a year ago at a certain point in time? Right now, the board would, somebody would have to go and accumulate 3 years to see. I don't know if it's been stable. I think we've only had the report, about a year or so, or 2 years? But I mean, if somebody could just look at the trend, because that's the purpose of it. It's a management report.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to say that substitute report has been yielding some good data. Mm-hmm. I've been looking at it recently. And after Dr. Powell's comments, I sat up and took notice, and I went online and read a couple scholarly articles. I don't know how I got through them, but I did. No, but I did send one to the whole board, and it does reflect what you're saying, Pat. That this is a pretty much a nationwide problem. And they consider it a problem because, well, anyway, they call it a problem. And the report states that, or the study states that the average in the United States for school districts is 5.3%.
Absent at any time.
Absentee.
You know, actually, Education Week, Randy, just came out with the fact that there's also a chronic absentee problem among students, and that there's a high percentage of kids that are absent more than 15 days during the school year.
Yeah. And one of the studies linked the absenteeism between students and the absenteeism
Between teachers.
among staff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's being considered.
Yeah.
But just looking at our substitute report, and I see that we're right at the national average. We're at 6.2 or just over. And I see Jeff is...
I just have a comment about the substitute
Some of
report.
those
I think it's incomplete
leaves.
in the following sense. I think we only note an absence if we have to go outside the district to get a substitute. So if someone is absent and there's someone in the building that can substitute, that's not counted in that report. So in a sense, we undercount, I think, true absences.
So you're saying that the
Number could be higher.
The number-
At the same time, though, you've got a lot of variables.
the
For
number is
instance-
likely higher?
Does
Yeah.
that include
It's almost
maternity
certainly
leave?
higher,
Well,
but
see, that's
also
the problem.
includes
If it
things like
includes
family
maternity
medical leave. So I
that's
think it
gonna
has to be
skew the
broken
data
out.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think we need the
think we have a
data
category
in
for
a
it,
cleaner.
though.
Well, I know, but if it's included in the average, it's going to be an issue.
Well, and you, quite frankly, you have a teacher from this school who's been gone all year on FMLA, and that's accumulating, and right now you wound up with almost 180 absence days just from that one situation. So you have to be careful in how you.
I think we need better data to make
Right.
any firm decision, any firm judgments here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're suggesting, Jeff, is that the substitute report could be improved.
If we're going to use that to analyze things like absences, I think we need to do it in a different way.
Well,
Right.
I
When
would,
you're talking straight attendance report,
If that's what we wanted to do, I think that's what we
Yeah.
do. I'm just saying that the substitute report doesn't necessarily tell us what
Yeah.
The whole
answer to the
story.
question.
I think it starts to get to it. And I would just, I did see the substitute report in today's board book. And it reflects absentee among staff of about 8%. So that would be in May. So that is a few percentage points above.
But I'm just going to say this again, it does include maternity leaves.
Right, I think you have to break that
It
out,
includes a
maternity
lot
leave
of
and all that
things.
kind of stuff as well.
And you just can't compare the statistics, I think, that you're comparing it to.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well then, with that said, let's
We need to get better data.
get
Right.
better data.
Right.
And because I think it's been recognized as a problem across the country.
Yeah, and Donna, I think, can get that to you without a lot of additional work. I think she just has to put it in a different format to get you what you're looking for. So,
Very good.
okay.
So are there any other comments on this topic? If there's no other comments on this topic, then we move on to old business. The first item is the Board of Education workshop. So we had two workshops, one with the board agreements, and then we had one with Ms. Ryan Toy. And two sets of agreements came out of that. So at this point, is there a motion to approve the workshop outcomes as presented?
I would like them each agreement to be voted on separately.
Okay. So let's modify that. Is there a motion to approve the board agreements as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 And opposed,
Okay.
no.
So 5 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion passes. Then is there a motion to approve the superintendent and board expectations agreements as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
Okay.
Next item is an item to increase the ECE staffing by 1/2 paraprofessional, because I gather the enrollment is higher than we expected.
And a lot of students that are waiting to be evaluated, so you're going to pick up some more individuals that way too.
So is there a motion to approve this hiring of a 1/2 paraprofessional as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Margie, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next item is the motion to approve a 1/2 increase to a full-time equivalent teacher, also for the ECE staffing. Is there a motion to approve that as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Margie, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next item is the kindergarten enrollment. Is that just informational, showing that the...
Well, actually, we need to have the additional halftime teacher because of the 8th section.
Okay.
Last year, we were under that 8th section number. This year, it's at 100 and, I think, did we get a new one today? It's 144.
Got it.
I think your board book showed 143.
Okay.
And during the summer, we expect some more. So to keep your 20-to-1 ratio, you really need 8 classes,
Okay.
3 at Ames, 3 at Central, 1 at Blythe, and 1 at Hollywood.
Okay. All right.
So you need a halftime teacher
Got
at
it.
Ames.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion to hire an additional 1/2 time teacher for kindergarten?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Margie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next, we come to the tentative budget for 2016 and 2017. Mr. Sellers, do you want to review what you have here? Is there anything you'd like to add to this, or?
So the necessity this evening is for the board to approve the tentative budget for public display. That would be the week of beginning August 16th. The budget needs to be on display for 30 days prior to adoption on the third Tuesday, the meeting in September. The good thing about a tentative budget is that it is malleable. If between now and the presentation of the final budget, there is a need for changes, those changes can be made. The board's approval of the capital outlay piece is an important step forward. At this time, we will be able to order equipment for delivery at the opening of school, based on the board's action earlier this evening. Property taxes are final because the tax agency report was issued by the county. I provided the proposed tax levy and then the final results of the tax levy for board members to review. That has been reflected in some changing of the 5-year financial projection. The board has been provided with each individual fund and how the transfers that were just approved for this current fiscal year, we will have recommendations for similar transfers, transportation and operations and maintenance fund in next year's budget. And on page 24 of the materials, I did provide, as promised, all of the changes that were made as compared, so that you could, shortcut your attention to what has changed, and I will continue to do that for the next time that this is brought before the board, so that you can look at, and generally speaking, we made a significant number of changes because of grants being finalized and reflecting some changes to the tax levy allocations by fund that were indicated as necessary based upon the finalization of the tax levy. And then the last couple of pages in this packet is basically a condensed version of the, so that you only have to look at 4 pages in order to get the same information as what is reflected in the official document. This is what must be on public display. So that being said, I don't really have anything else to provide except to ask if there are any questions.
If there are no questions, then is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the preparation and publication of the tentative budget for 2016-2017?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Margie, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Clyber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Mangia?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next item, I think, Mr. Sellers, you indicated is no longer necessary?
It is no longer necessary based on a conversation with our auditor, Peter Casella, and the nature of our new to this school district's approach, which is to accrue expenditures. So anything that we have very clearly documented as work completed prior to June 30th will be accrued to the FY15-16 fiscal year, even though they will be presented as expenditures for board approval in July.
Thank you. That's, at this point, we come to our second public comment period. Is there any public comment? Seeing that there's no public comment, future meeting dates, the July 5th Committee of the Whole meeting has been canceled. The next meeting is July 19th, 2016, the regular business meeting. The open session will start at 7 p.m. and the location will be the Central School Library because the Hauser Library is being, they're working on the elevator in that area. So I think at this point, then, I believe we did not finish our discussions of the open, in the closed session. So is there a motion to discuss the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity? And just in case, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Margie, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Ms. Mangia?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway? Ms. Clyber?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion
So
carried.
we're in closed session.